be home by 9. Hell, I tell her that most of the time. Whoa, baby, don't know, won't hurt her too much. Whoa, I'll tell her where, but I won't say what. Oh, now I'm dancing, oh, I'm dancing. I'm dancing with the devil. Oh, now I'm dancing, oh, I'm dancing.
Hey guys, welcome back to Otter Creek in Rio Grande. I'm going to get started on another structure build. Now, as I sit here, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to mock this up or if I'm going to just build the whole thing. I'll probably make that decision on a fly kind of after I get a little deeper into the build. But what we're looking at here is a grain elevator. I don't know a lot about this thing other than I'm relatively sure it was built in the early 1900s. It's possible it could have been built maybe in the late 1800s. But it's a pretty small elevator. I think it's perfect for Maroon Creek, which is, you know, what I'm building it for. And I'm on Google Earth right now. And, you know, as a standalone structure, it might not make a lot of sense. So I'm also considering adding this at a later date. It's, you know, if I do, it's not going to be in this particular video. But this is a little further down the road. My father actually worked at this elevator, and he loaded grain into boxcars at this very site, unless I'm confused and it was this particular elevator he did it at, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was this one. I grew up driving wheat trucks into this facility. This particular door right here is where I would go in. So, you know, there's a lot of family history here. Me and my granddad used to go in here and buy feed for cattle and things like that. Of course, this hasn't been opened in who knows how long. So I would like to add this as maybe a complement to this and kind of merge the two together for Maroon Creek. So let's take a look at some of the pictures I've taken, because I did take quite a few pictures since it's really accessible to me. I got a lot of really good pictures. Let's take a look at those. All right, here you see the north side of the structure, and right here is the door, the center door, and it measures exactly 6.5 feet. 6'6" is what this door measures. I took a tape measure with me and got a lot of really good measurements. The 10, you can see, you know, as the eye detects from the bottom to the top, most of this 10 is 22.5 inches, you know, from line to line. Not all of it, but most of it is. So, you know, it was 24-inch strips with about a 2-inch overlay is what they did. Now, these things here, I don't know what those are other than they're probably gussets of some kind for added strength. And we'll look at the pictures from the inside here in a minute, but this is where the grain boxes were. There were 2 grain boxes, one on each side of this center line here. The center line is where the actual elevator is. So I just presume that they're just there to help strengthen the whole structure. And near as I can tell, they're like a 3x6. They're for sure 6 inches wide. And, you know, this would have been made when they used real dimensions in lumber and not kind of what we have now where we call a 2x4 a 2x4, and it doesn't measure 2x4. So this is the south side. Now We'll look here. Now we are looking at the west side, so we're looking to the east. And there's a gabled roof, if I'm using the right term, as you exit. So this is a drive-through for trucks. So the previous side, the north side here, this was the rail serve side. There would have been tracks on this side. At least that's my best guess. And then the trucks dropping off the wheat came through. You would have come through on the other side of this, which would have been the east side. So here's the east side. You would have drove through here and unloaded the truck into a well that then carried the grain to the top of the elevator. So, I went around the whole thing and got measurements of everything, and it's in pretty rough shape. Just go ahead and kind of go through these pictures because, kind of once you've seen them. Now, right here, I don't know if I can zoom in, you can see there's a block and tackle up at the very top here. Of course, I didn't venture up inside the top. Now, as a young kid, I did. I have been up here, but it's been so long ago that I have no real recollection of what it looked like up there other than there were bats. I distinctly remember bats being up there. So, if you're going to scratch build something, having as many good pictures as you can get is absolutely a necessity. So we're just going to take a quick look at the inside. So here are the boxes, what I call the grain boxes. The actual area where the grain is would have been on this side and that side. And let's see. Not that I'm going to attempt to do any structure on the inside because I just don't think it would be worth it, because the rail side is going to be near to you, and so you really wouldn't be able to see any of this if you wanted to try and model it. But if you can see this particular structure here, this is what you would have driven your two front tires on in a truck, and then it hoisted up the front end of the truck, for a truck that did not have a lift bed. So the whole vehicle would go up into the air and dump the grain down into the well where the elevator would pick it up. And here's another picture of the grain boxes. The grain boxes measure right at 10 feet. I think, if I recall, I don't have the measurements in front of me, but I think they were essentially 10 foot by 10 foot. It's kind of looking up in here. And then, I'm assuming that this is some kind of manhole. You could actually get down in there and do some shoveling. Would have been a very dirty job. And then some ladders going up. You can see that they apparently just used what was handy, probably scraps to make that. And of course, the well now where the grain would have been is completely submerged in water. Made no attempt to go down in there. Here are the grain buckets. So that would have gone down in, picked up the grain and carried it to the top. Pretty cool. And then those buckets went up this. I guess this is technically what the actual elevator is. And then you can see the stairwell going up to the top. Didn't try it. And there's Ricky. Ricky scared the hell out of me because I didn't recognize him when I came through the door. I only recognized him as I was going back out, and he frightened me. Just wasn't expecting him. And a few more pictures here, there might be some electricians watching that might recognize some of this and be able to date the building a little bit better. I don't know. I think that's it. So enough with the pictures. Let's talk about how I'm actually going to go about constructing it. So the first thing I did, when I went out with my tape measure, I got the exterior dimensions of everything. And then the first thing I did is I made this paper template so that I wouldn't have to continue to have to look back at the measurements, right? So now I've got this piece of paper that gives me the overall dimensions of the structure. And I got this one wrong. I don't remember why, but I had to go back out a second time and I retook this measurement, and I've got this piece of paper at 16 feet and it's actually 14 feet this way. The truck drive-through is this half of the building. That's the truck drive-through, and then this is the grain bin this way. So I got that wrong, but this gave me a great starting place. So, when I'm going to start to build the structure, or actually my drawings, because that's the next thing I did was made a little more detailed drawings. I could just refer back to this and go, okay, this whole thing was 30 feet, this was 14 feet, and I was, like 15 feet that way. So that was the first thing I did, just kind of have a constant reference to the overall dimensions to begin with. Now the next thing I did, so I went ahead and drew this on a separate piece of paper, and I just made 100% sure that I got everything the way I wanted it. And so there are a few differences in this, but this is the actual footprint that I want. So got that. The next thing was determining the height of everything. And that was a little tricky, but what I did is I used the measurement of the door, which, if you've ever done any of this kind of work before, that doorways or any known measurement on the structure can then be used as a map, if you will, to determine everything else about the structure. So measuring this, if I remember right, I went ahead and called it 7 feet, I think is what I did. And then if you measure this, it ended up being 28 millimeters. And then so if 28 millimeters equals 7 feet on the picture, then that breaks down to 1 foot equals 4 millimeters. That's fun. Okay, so with that, with the 4 millimeters to 1 foot, now you can measure everything on this picture with millimeters and determine what everything is. So I figured out that this structure was right at 48 feet high to the peak. And then I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've got drawings what everything else worked out to. So that was the process there. I did the same thing on this side, only I think I was a lot more accurate on this side because I knew each one of these lines on this tin right here was 22.5 inches, because I could easily measure that. And the tin on the other side, it wasn't quite as accurate as this was. Every one of these was really right at 22.5 inches. So that gave me the height from here to here, which then I was able to extrapolate and get all of the rest of the dimensions of this particular structure in height. I was able to measure the width with the tape measure. So now that I figured out, exactly what the heights of everything was, went ahead and made a drawing that I could easily reference. And so you can see that up to here, which I called the shoulder, is 32 feet. I figured this at 42 feet. And, this is one of those situations here where I really couldn't 100% for sure know exactly what this was. I decided that it was 30 inches. I don't really know why, but I just was my best guess based on some tin that was right here. Just couldn't measure it perfectly. And then again, I said 48 feet up to here. And then it looked to me like these gussets were, the first three were about 3 feet on center. Then from there on out, they were 5 feet. And then there were a place where there were two right together. I can figure all that out on the fly later. And then here you can see that for the most part, the tin was in 7-foot chunks and they were 24-inch wide. So, and then there is a concrete footing that was also, I believe that's 30 inches. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure that's 30 inches. So that's that drawing. And then I have these drawings, which show the east end and the west end. And so you've got 11 feet to the top of the doorway here for the truck drive. And then you've got 16 feet to this point, and then the peak is 22 feet, and then it should hit the grain elevator somewhere right around 28 feet. So now it's just a matter of figuring out my approach to how I'm gonna put it together. And so for sure, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build the grain elevator, this structure first. Cut this out. There'll be two of them. The south side will have this door here, or window, I guess. And then this is the north side. And then the south side will only have this window. But other than that, they'll be identical, and then there won't be a door here, obviously. So that'll be the first structure I build. And then it looks to me, on this one, I'll need two pieces that look like this that will butt up to the elevator, and then one piece like this, and then I'm going to have to figure out the understructure, because this will be up in the air, and then the support system. These are, as I recall, they're about a 6-inch pipe. Like they used some kind of drill stem or something like that for the structure to hold up the doorways. And then this is angle iron here, which is what the actual doorway is constructed of. And then they threw tin up on top of it. So that's the plan. To get started, I still haven't decided what I want to make it out of. Do I make the structure out of cardboard, or do I go ahead and and make it out of plastic? I don't think I want to make it out of plastic yet. I do want to build a plastic model, but I just don't think I'm ready to go down that route with this one, because this is going to get laid on with tin everywhere. I just don't know if I have enough corrugated material to do the entire building. I'm going to have to look, but we're going to get started on this. Well, there's the elevator portion, about where I think it should be. And I like the proportions. I think this is going to turn out pretty good. I'm still a little indecisive as to whether or not this is a mock-up or if I should go ahead and go forward with the complete structure. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do now is complete this portion of the build, kind of start to work on it, and have two different structures, so to speak, that I can slap on the back, because this portion right here will be on this side. And I've done everything I can to try and get this as close to right as possible, but I'm still not sure that it's, I guess, up to the right kind of specifications to call it a full build. There's definitely some crookedness to the cardboard that I put in there, but I'm going to go ahead and drive forward with this and see how that turns out, and then I'll make a decision as to whether or not I want to go ahead and start laying some corrugated siding on it. We'll stop here and do a little in progress. So what I've done is I've cut a lot of plastic. So this is probably the biggest, most complicated thing I've ever built out of plastic before. And now, yes, there will be a wall here, but I want to get in and paint all of this stuff before I put that wall on. And I haven't decided whether I also want to put a wall here and kind of keep this as two different entities. I'll probably decide that later. But let's talk a little bit about what I used, if anybody is curious. I used just regular 40 thou sheet for, the sides and everything like that. And then the leg structure here, I used this HO 6x8. It 66 by 90 at number 8608, if I'm reading that right. That's kind of the leg material, and I don't know if you can see it, but see if I can get it to focus here, but I have round stock going up the leg kind of in front of that post there, which is pretty accurate to the actual prototype. And for that stuff, I used this 16th inch rod, number 222. And then I also used all of it that I had. I ran completely out, this 8208 2x8, which is what the wood planking is on the inside. Now, I'm pretty sure from the angle that it will be viewed, I won't need to put anything else up there on top, so I'm not gonna worry about that. So that's where I am now. I mismeasured here, and good thing this is gonna have roofing on it, so it's not perfect by a long shot. It's no Boomer Dioramas build for sure, but I think it's going to look pretty good when it's all said and done. If I can paint the inside here halfway worthy of what little bit of plastic I've used in there. So I think that's what's next, is to go ahead and paint this and see what how that comes out. I've got the truck drive-through built up and the interior painted. So it's base coated with a Tamiya, thinned with alcohol. I'll let you guys figure out where I learned that technique from. And, I used a series of, what is this? Vallejo wood colors to paint the interior, and did some enamel washes to kind of bring out the dark recesses. And for the most part, I think it turned out pretty good. Now, the backside, I've used this paper kind of corrugated. It's not it's not slick. So I've got two different kinds of corrugated paper. And what I used on the back is this, I got it from Ironworks Models. I hope I'm remembering right. And it's really just more or less a piece of paper that's been, scribed as corrugated material. And then I've also got this stuff, which kind of has it's almost like a super thin plastic. And I've used this almost exclusively on everything that I've used that had corrugated siding or a corrugated roof, and I really like it. So I have no idea if this is going to work any way similar. So strategically, it's on the back side. So this won't ever be seen, unless I, do some kind of somersault with a camera to get the back side of it. But I'm going to do some experimentation back here with the airbrush and do some things that I've never tried before, just to see how it works out. If it turns out good, awesome. If it doesn't, then I can either start over or it will just never be seen. So that's kind of the next step. And other places I went ahead and used what I'm used to that I know, will be seen. Hopefully this will work out all right. Now, as far as the build out goes, I'll point out this area here. Jimmy, Billy, and the boys, they may have gotten a hold of some badger sweat and had a little too much to drink when they were working on this area of the building. We'll just say that nothing is square and the roof wasn't long enough. They lost the blueprints. They had a good time though. Morale was high as they were building this portion of the building. When it actually goes together and gets set on the layout, I'm going to have to put a tree here, I think. There will need to be a tree to hide how ugly and unsquare that portion of the building is. But as a whole, I think the building will look fine from a distance and just in normal operating. If you look real close, you'll find some issues. But I think I'm on to seeing what I can do with the airbrush. This should be fun. Well, I'm fairly happy with how it turned out. Now, I really don't know how this is going to look on camera, but the color, under the lighting is pretty close to the prototype. I'm fairly happy with how it turned out. So, if you've watched a few of the model railroad channels, one of the things that you'll hear a lot of guys say is you should watch military modelers. And so I've done that. And the technique I used, if I remember right, I might have it wrong, so I apologize if I do, but it's called pre-shading. So all I did was go in with a dark umber, like a burnt umber, and highlighted every line there was on here, and then in some places, kind of fill in some areas. And then when you go over the top of everything with your actual paint, then you end up with, I guess, lines that are already shaded. So it's the first time I've ever tried this technique. I'm not going to say that I did it right, but I am overall pleased with how it looks right now. The color that I used, so it's all Tamiya paint, and I started with the pre-shading. I mixed whole red with black and got kind of a real dark, I don't know what you would call it, a burnt umber probably, but just something that wasn't black and could represent really dark rust. That was the goal. And then I used this XF16 flat aluminum mixed with this XF19 sky gray. I couldn't tell you what what the mixture was. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't overly shiny. So I don't know, probably a 2-to-1. If I remember right, I probably got a little more metallic than I did the sky gray, but you really can't see it. And that's really the kind of the way it worked out. Now, there were places where if you go in and just kind of keep working, you can get some of that sheen to come out a little more noticeable. And I don't know if I probably won't spend any more time on the back of this just because it's not going to be seen. But I'm looking forward to doing the actual elevator. Unfortunately, I'm completely out of corrugated material, so I can't do that. But I think I still have enough corrugation material that I can work on the doors. So I think that's what I'm going to do next is finish out the doors for this, and we'll see how that turns out. I know the video's getting long, but I'm getting close to the finish line. So I got different corrugated siding material. I went back to Ironworks Hobbies to buy some of the same white stuff that I had been using earlier out of stock. And so I went to Casey's Workshop, and I think that's the right name, Casey's Workshop. I have purchased a lot of corrugated siding from those guys before, and it's always come silver. And when I got these in, about 3 packages, every bit of it was this kind of brass gold color. And I went back and looked to make sure I didn't order something, on accident. And there's no way I could order any other color. But it didn't mention the color, I think, at all on the website. So I'm hoping that this doesn't change the overall look drastically from what I've already got with the lean-to on the backside. So just a few other things that I've done. I created this angle bracket thing here, which is fairly close to the prototype. I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to work the downspout from here. I've got a couple different ideas. I've tried a couple of ideas already that failed, so I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. I do have the, I don't know what this is called, like a hoisting block of some kind. So there's supposed to be a pulley in there. Of course, you can't see it because it's not there. I just drilled a hole and cut a relief to make it look like there was a pulley in there, because I could not find a pulley anywhere online that looked like it would work. Now, these brace brackets, they are made out of this HO 4x6 material, 8406. And then I've also laminated them with paper. And that may have been way more than I needed to do, but the prototype is absolutely tinned over. And what I did is I just took a piece of the material and I just folded paper over the top of it, then cut what I needed, and then skinned it on. And you can kind of see in places where hopefully it will provide a little of variation, like the real thing does. I have no idea if it's going to work, but I guess we'll see. So I think the only thing left to do is to paint, airbrush it all, get it all painted up. Now the way I sided it, I did try, and there was a couple of places on the prototype that I did try to emulate right through here, but for the most part, I just laid it on sporadically, just like apparently the people who built it did. I don't know, it may have survived a couple of windstorms over the years and been repaired, because I can tell you there's nothing uniform about the tin on this thing out there across the street. So I'm going to get started painting and we'll see how this thing turns out. It's probably as finished as it's gonna get. There's still a few more things I could probably do. Now, the nut bolt washers on the gussets, there should be one in the center, but that would be another 36. I just didn't have enough of them, so 2 on either side is what I did, and that's gonna work. You know, as far as my own criticism goes of the model, there's the grain auger, or the downspout. This actually releases grain. It doesn't auger it back up, but it's a little oversized. It should be, I don't know, probably another 2 to 4 inches smaller in the overall diameter. And then this thing here, which is supposed to be segmented, I think I threw a picture up at the beginning of the video, which I know was a long time ago, but it's really too big. But you know, it's what I had on hand, and it's not glued in. If I order some smaller tubing, I might be able to recreate this and get it a little closer to the prototype. I think if you don't look at the photos, you know, no one would ever really know. It's definitely doing the job of looking like a place that grain would come out. Same thing with this block and tackle thing here. I think eventually when I go to put this on the baseboard to mount it in here, wherever that's gonna be, it's pretty close to where I think it needs to be now. But I think I will hoist this up in the air a little bit higher and have it hang right in here, because right now it's competing visually in that area. It's a little, you can't really see what's going on there, so I think I'll adjust that a little bit. And I use black thread. I could not find any of my brown thread, so I will probably redo that in brown thread if I can find it. Other than that, it's all fairly well finished. Now, the weathering, I used this. Raw umber is the predominant color that you see on there that is, I guess, weathering the whole thing. I didn't want to go too overboard. Some might think that I did anyway. So weathering is all a matter of taste. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people say that we tend to over-weather our buildings, and it wouldn't have looked like that in 1940. Well, possibly. I wasn't alive in 1940, and I certainly don't have any pictures from 1940, but if you think about it, if it was built in the 1880s, by 1940, that's quite a few years. So the tin's still on it, and there's not a lot of bright orange rust, so I'm happy with the way it looks. The rust that I did put on was kind of a combination of this shadow rust, which was the brightest color of rust that I used, and then there's also this old rust. Actually, I think this is a little bit brighter than the shadow. Yeah. So this was the brightest color of rust I used anywhere on it, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I think it's a nice addition to the layout. I'm looking forward to building as many more structures as that one, that if they all turn out as good as that, then I think it's going to be a pretty good looking layout. So thanks for watching. Don't know what I will build next. Probably the turntables. I think I'll probably build 2 turntables next. Not 100% sure. But stay tuned. There's going to be additional content besides structure builds coming up in the next few weeks. It's almost Christmas right now. I don't know when this video will drop, but it might drop before Christmas, might drop after, just kind of depends. I've got a lot of other video that I'm currently editing. So we will see you around Otter Creek and Rio Grande. Thank you very much.
Pour me a whiskey, old barkeep. Oh, pour me 4 more so I can